Hey y'all, I want to talk about shell chords for a minute here. These are a very important set of chords and voicings that are really going to help you get into seventh chords and richer harmony, understanding how chord progressions fit together in actually pretty typical ways, and working them out in the guitar, on the guitar fretboard. So a shell chord is the 1 and the 3 and the 7 of any given chord. Why those? Well, the third is the most important of any chord. You might say, well, why not the root? Well, yes, the root is important, but let's assume right now that the root is always given, whether it's in the bassist or a keyboardist or somewhere, it's given, right? So after the bass, the root note, the third is the most important because that tells you the quality, whether it's major or minor. That is a huge deal. This versus is a big deal, right? And culturally, that is the case. Even though you might be thinking, oh, it's just a half step, but culturally and how we perceive music and how these chords are used in different settings, in different moods are evoked. We have the happy versus sad thing. Not that I actually believe in that, but there you go. Happy, sad, those are the opposites of each other. So it's a big deal. And then the seventh is super important because that's going to tell us whether or not we have a major 7 type sound or a dominant 7 type sound. And again, that's also really important because that really gives us the function of the chord, or it gives us more, fills in the color, right? Fills in some color about its function and where it's going to want to go, where it wants to stay, etc. The fifth is not even there because the fifth is so ingrained with the 1. I mean, really, the 1 and the 5, long story short, the timbre of those notes, basically the harmonic content, the overtone content, they contain each other. So when I play this note, the root, ooh, I can actually hear it. I can hear ooh, the fifth, one of the fundamental notes, way up there. So even though it's felt, not heard, right? The fifth is felt, not heard. So we don't need to play it in most scenarios. Again, it's great to add it in certain contexts, but right now, just to look at our 7th chords, root, 3rd, 7th is the way to go. They're also going to be a lot easier. So here's how I like to categorize them. And remember, shell chords exist irrespective of our instrument. That just is a concept. On the piano, you're going to play shell chords. When you're writing and arranging, shell chords are what they are, root, 3rd, 7th, or root, 7, 3, depending on the combination and the voicing. On guitar, we've got 2 places that we're going to need to know them. On the E string, it's going to look like this. You're going to have your root on the low E string. You're going to skip the A string. Then you're going to have your 7th on the D string and 3rd on the G string. Okay, this shape looks like this. This is G major 7, shell voicing. So I've got G on the E string, muting the A, talk about that in a minute, and then F sharp on the D string, that's the 7, B on the G string, that is the 3rd. So 1, 7, 3. A couple things you might be asking, well, why am I not playing 1, 3, 7? Because you said it's 1, 3, 7. Why am I already changing the order? Here's why. If I do that on the E string, it's very tubby and it's going to get muddy. That's okay in certain contexts, but when we have a root on the E string, we want to get rid of that A string and revoice it so that the 3rd and 7th are in a higher register. So we swap. We go 1, 7, and the 3 goes up an octave. There we go. Now it pops versus. Might not be a big difference when you're alone, but play with other people, especially a bassist and a whole band, you'll understand why. That's what that is. And then as far as muting the A string, if it's major 7, I'm just doing a shell chord. I just like to play with my middle, ring, and pinky. So I'm gonna, regardless which way I finger it, I'm gonna have my E string finger go a little flat. So I'm actually muting that A string pretty naturally with my middle finger at this point, right? So you don't have to be, way up on the tips because you actually want to mute that A string. So that's 1, 7/3, let's get into the 5 chord types, 7 chord types, and how to change them according to the shell pattern. So I'm going to go in order, moving one note at a time. I'm going to get to dominant 7 by lowering my 7. D string is the 7th. D string, 7th. F sharp goes to F. Now I have 1 flat 7, major 3. G, F, B. And all these are movable, right? So if I want to play A7, I go up 2 frets on the E string. Boom, there I am. Okay, and then I make it a minor by lowering the 3rd. Lower the G string by a fret. This one's distinct because they're all on the same fret. 3rd fret, E string, 3rd fret, D, 3rd fret, G. 1 flat 7, flat 3. G, F, B flat. So I got major 7, dominant, minor 7. Now, there's a couple things that happen because we don't have the 5th. Some of these voicings are going to be interesting or look like multiple things. So minor 7 flat 5 is the same thing as minor 7 because I'm not playing the 5 still. I'm not playing the 5. Even though that is a defining quality of that chord, it's okay if I play 1 flat 3 flat 7 and not the 5. It's not going to get in the way of anything. I'm not providing that other ingredient, but technically with this definition, that would be the shell chord for minor 7 flat 5. Same thing as minor 7. Diminished is right here. That's going to be G, E is my double flat 7. Really a major 6 interval, but double flat because theory, spelling stuff. And then B flat. Now this is part of a G diminished chord. It's also part of a G minor 6 chord. So this one also could have multiple meanings. Depends on what that extra note on top, the 5th, right? But right now, this is going to be our G diminished voicing. It's major 7, dominant, minor 7 flat 5, G diminished. All movable. I can do the same thing on B flat. Same sequence. Cool. So those are my shell chords on the E string. Let's look at the A string. Now we do have root, 3rd, 7th in that order on the A string. 3 adjacent strings. I'm going to go to G again to keep it consistent. So G on the 8th fret, A string. So here's my G major 7 shell chord on the A string. G, B, F sharp. 8th fret, 9th fret, 11th fret, respectively. 1, 3, 7. Couple different ways to finger it. Plenty of tabs and stuff out there. It's not rocket surgery. Dominant 7. Well, hold on. I just want to make sure. Why do we do root 3, 7 and not root 7, 3 again? Well, a couple reasons. You could, but now it starts to get thin. For this type of chord, which is typically used in a very full comping style, which I'll show, just like this. Right, I can't do that up here. I mean, I can literally, but you start to lose that deep resonance and the body of the chords. That's why we have different voicing types for when we get higher on the instrument. So it's 1, 3, 7 because we still capture the brilliance of the G string that kind of gets that note popping, and then also the body and the depth of the lower strings. Okay, make it dominant. G, B, F natural. Minor 7. I lower the B on the D string to a B flat. Remember, I've got root 3, 7. A, D, G strings. Here's my G minor 7. It's also my G minor 7 flat 5. And then my F goes to E, a double flat 7, to get G diminished 7. G, B flat, E natural. Major 7. And you could do it this way, different fingerings. Dominant 7, lower the F sharp to F. Minor 7, lower the B to B flat. minor 7 flat 5, nothing happens. G diminished, F goes to E. So there's the shapes. The awesome thing about Western harmony and chord progressions is that they have this natural gravity where most chord progressions tend to move in the circle of fourths, meaning they go around the circle, and all the voice leading is wonderful because it keeps leading into each other. I'm not going to go over the voice leading right now, but if I do a 2-5-1 in G major, A minor 7, D7, G major 7, I don't have to do this. I don't want to jump on the same string to find a different root, unless it's close, right? Jumping up a fourth on the same string root, not going to be helpful, because if you start on the E string, you're going to go to the A string invariably for a lot of these common progressions. 1 6 2 5, 1 flat 7 4, all your turnarounds, right? You're going to be jumping from the E string to the A string to the E string, etc. So I've got A minor 7 goes to D7, it's right there, and then G major 7, also right there. So E string shape goes to A string shape goes to E string shape. So if I do 1, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, it's still rotating. E string shape, A string, E string, A string, right? So I'll do a blues in the key of G flat, or G, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is right there. 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2. I'm just chilling over here. That's all I need to do. I don't need to be jumping all over the place. And my left hand is now not bothered with a bunch of chord voicings that might get in the way of the rhythm and the groove. Now, these chords have a purpose, and they have a particular sound, and it's not always going to be the correct one depending on the style of music. And it's not just for jazz and swing music, it's for all. You're going to see shell chords in all types of scenarios. I was just doing a actually, I played two things on accident. So this was part of a Led Zeppelin tune. What was that tune name? Right, What Is and What Should Never Be, that happens in it. Right, there's a shell chord right there. And also that happens to be the intro of Tempted by Squeeze. That song's got a lot of cool chords in it, by the way. But anyways, you're going to see these in tons of different scenarios. And even if you don't tend to use them in a performance application, they're really great to look at your seventh chords and start spelling them out and be able to map out, okay, the seventh is on this D string. Well, how does that get to the 4 chord? Like, think of each string, take out the root, don't even need the root. Look at each string, the D and G strings. Those are called the guide tones, right? Thirds and sevenths, they're going to have little lines, guide tone lines, or old school arranger might say thumb line or something like that, and they're going to kind of crawl towards each other like ants on a log, constantly switching places. 3 goes to 7, 7 goes to 3, etc. Again, tons of literature on that. I probably have videos on it too. I have no idea. I'm sure I do. But basically, looking at those D and G strings, you find some really interesting stuff. If I just do a bunch of major 7s in a row, fourth away, I got these melodies. Oh. You hear these melodies, and you start to notice, oh, this is what is creating a chord progression. This is partly why all these progressions are so common, because they have a natural gravity, they move towards each other, they create these inner lines and guide tones that just fill out things in a beautiful way and go around the circle. So there's your shell chords. Practice those on the E string root and A string root. Seriously, that could get you through. I could pull up anything in the real book and distill it to at least a shell chord and be okay. Obviously there's lots of other chords and voicings and extensions and all sorts of stuff, but shell chords are where it's at. It's gonna get you through the gig. It's gonna show you the fretboard, show you how harmony moves, in general, and also through the fretboard in a nice way. And it's gonna open up your ears to new sounds. So enjoy.